He was slicing an apple in my kitchen. With my knife. On my cutting board. Want a slice? I stared at him like he was a snake that had slithered into my house through a crack I didn't know existed. Who the hell are you? He smirked. Took a bite. You're not big on surprises, huh, Michael? He knew my name. He knew where I lived. He moved through my house like he'd been here before, too confident, too familiar. I didn't know him. Tall. Close-cropped hair. A scar near his temple. Eyes the color of old ice. Not a flicker of recognition. Not a memory. Nothing. I'm your brother, he said, tossing the apple core into the sink. We share a father. Though it seems you don't remember him much. Something in me tightened. He was right, I didn't know anything about my father. My mother had spent her life hiding the subject. All I had was a faded name on my birth certificate. Get out, I said, trying to sound firm. He just chuckled. I'm not here to beg. Or threaten. I'm here to tell you why you've always felt like something was off. Like someone's been watching you. He pulled a worn, battered envelope from his inner pocket and laid it on the table. Tapped it with his fingers, like weighing a decision. This is a letter from your father. Written to you. When you were 3. I didn't breathe. He went on. Don't you want to know why your mother was afraid of mirrors? Why there were no photos of you before you turned 4? Why you were never allowed to play hide-and-seek? I stayed silent. He smiled like he'd heard something anyway. I figured you wouldn't remember. But I do. I saw. I lived in the shadow of your life, Michael. They hid me. From you. From everyone. He stood up slowly, like it was ceremonial. You don't have to believe me. But tomorrow you'll wake up and realize everything you knew about yourself is a lie. I'll be back. In 2 days. You'll be ready. He walked out. And I stayed. With a letter. And the sinking feeling that someone had just pulled a brick from the foundation of my life. I barely slept that night. The letter sat in front of me, untouched. My fingers reached for it, then recoiled, like it was a landmine, and the slightest movement might set off an explosion. I smoked 3 cigarettes. I hadn't smoked since college. Eventually, I took a knife, the same kitchen knife, and slit the edge open. The paper inside was yellowed, fragile, handwritten. The ink had faded, but the words were still readable. Lines that should never have existed. Michael, my son. If you're reading this, it means I've lost. It means your mother managed to keep you hidden from the truth. But the truth always surfaces. It lives in blood. And in dreams. You were not alone. You were never alone. I read the whole thing. And I was shaking. It wasn't just rambling, it was a warning. About something. Someone. About us. I tried to remember anything, from before I turned 4. Everything was foggy. Fragments. Bright flashes of fear. A scream. Rushing water. A voice on the other side of the wall. Once, my mother threw out the mirrored wardrobe from my room. I always thought it was because it fell. But now, there was too much about mirrors in that letter. Too many hints. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I got in my car and drove to the house we lived in when I was 3. It was still standing. Sold years ago. Abandoned now. Boarded windows. Weather-worn door. I climbed over the fence. Inside, it smelled of rot and memory. The floor creaked under my feet. The walls were peeling. But in one of the rooms, my room, there was still a faint drawing of a plane on the wall. I remembered my mom painting it. Or I thought I did. Now I wasn't sure. Because on the opposite wall, under layers of grime and age, I saw the outline of a mirror's frame. And in the corner, scratches. 3 deep, uneven gouges. Like someone had clawed at the wall, trying to get out. I walked out without looking back. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. Did you read the letter? His voice was calm. Like he already knew the answer. Yes, I said. Who are you really? He was silent. Then he said. You're asking the wrong question. Ask yourself, who were you, before they made you Michael? And he hung up. On the 3rd night after his visit, I had a dream. So vivid it ripped me out of sleep, drenched in cold sweat. I was standing in a room. Not mine. Low ceiling. Gray walls. A mirror hung on the far wall, foggy, dirty. But there was no reflection. There was a face. Mine. But not mine. The gaze, sharper, colder. It stared directly at me and slowly raised a finger to its lips. Shoo. I screamed. I woke up screaming. 4:07 a.m. I sat up in bed, gasping. I felt like someone else was in the room. Moving. Waiting. I turned on the light. Nothing. But there was a scratch on the mirror of my closet. Thin as a strand of hair. I was sure it hadn't been there before. At work, everything crumbled. I forgot words mid-sentence. Faces felt unfamiliar, even ones I'd known for years. I caught myself thinking. Are you sure your name is Michael? I started going through photos. Childhood albums. Anything that could prove I existed, before a certain point. And you know what I found? Nothing before age 4. Not a single picture. The album started with my 5th birthday. There was a clown. I was smiling, holding a cake. Mom beside me. But there were no candles. Just frosting that read. Happy birthday, little one. No name. I called Aunt Linda. The only living relative on my mother's side. Linda, do you remember what I was like as a kid? Of course, honey. Just a normal boy. Quiet. A little strange. You started talking late, or early? I forget. Did I have a brother? Silence. What? She said, suddenly sharper. You heard me. Did I have a brother? No. Of course not. Who told you that? I met him. He said we're twins. That he was taken. That he knows things about me no one else does. She exhaled hard. Don't listen to him. He's sick. If he comes back, call the police. Linda. And don't dig into the past. What happened back then, has to stay buried. If you dig, it'll start again. I'll what? I nearly shouted. But she had already hung up. And that's when it hit me. It's not him who's lying. It's everyone else who's silent. Later that night, lying awake in the dark, I heard something inside my own head. Not a voice. Not a memory. Just a thought. Your name is Ethan. It came, and slipped away. Like my mind itself tried to reject it. Like I'd heard that name many times, just never aloud. In dreams. In mirrors. In someone else. I couldn't stop thinking about the mirror. The next day, I took it down from the closet and turned it over. On the back, written in faint pencil, was a child's scrawl, "Do not open." I didn't write it. I didn't remember it. But the handwriting looked like mine. Each day it got harder to feel like I belonged in my own body. Like I was wearing someone else's skin. On the subway, people stared a second too long. One man whispered, "You're back again," before stepping off at the next stop. I couldn't sleep. Just short stretches of broken rest. In my head, dreams that weren't mine. A hospital room. Cold tile. A man in a white coat stroking my hair and saying, "Soon you'll forget. We'll do it right this time." I reread the letter from my father. There was a name in it, Dr. Lambert. I searched it online. And I found him. He worked at a private facility, located 3 hours from the city. It no longer existed. Burned down in 1997. All patients were reportedly evacuated. Almost all. Dar. Lambert's name was tied to a lawsuit. Parents had accused the facility of keeping children under false identities, subjecting them to trauma suppression experiments. The children's names were redacted. But one paragraph stopped me cold. Twins. Male. Age 3. Separated as part of a trial. One kept for observation, the other placed with a family. I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking. That was me. That was him. Later that day, I pulled out a box of old photographs my mother had hidden in the attic. Most were faded. A few were curled at the edges. In one of them, I must have been 2, sitting on my mother's lap, pacifier in mouth. But in the corner, behind a tree, barely visible, a shape. Kids show up in the background of pictures all the time. But I zoomed in. And I saw the face. Like mine. But not mine. Looking directly at the camera. He was in the photo. I went to a therapist. Not because I wanted to, but because I was starting to be afraid of myself. I booked the appointment under a different name. Jason. An old fake profile I used for online orders years ago. It was important to me that the doctor knew nothing about me. Dr. Vale was a quiet woman in her 50s, with eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. I told her part of it. Just that I'd met a man who claimed to be my brother. That my memories were getting scrambled. That I'd been having strange dreams. I didn't mention the mirror. The letter. The photos. Dr. Lambert. "Do you often feel like reality is false?" she asked. "More and more," I said. "Were there any moments in childhood where you lost time?" I flinched. "Why are you asking that?" She didn't answer. Just made a note in her pad. After the session, I stepped out onto an empty street. The air felt thick, like someone was burning something nearby. I sat on a bench near the park. It felt like if I closed my eyes, I'd wake up, in a different room. In a different body. That evening, Alex messaged me. "You checked the photos? You saw me? You have no idea how long I've waited for you to start seeing again." I replied. "What's happening to me?" He sent just one message back. "You're not you. But you have to become him." I didn't sleep. I drank. I tore through old notebooks, papers, even school essays, hoping to find proof. Something that said, I existed. I was real. And then, I found it. A school notebook. 3rd grade. I flipped through until I reached a drawing. A child's scribble, 2 boys. One with pitch black eyes. The other, faceless. Caption, "Me and the shadow." I wasn't sure anymore that I wasn't the shadow. They were watching me. At first, I didn't realize it. Coincidences, I told myself. The same man at the coffee shop 2 days in a row. Same glasses. Same folded newspaper. Same posture. Then, a car parked outside my house. 4 hours. Not moving. And then, a letter in my mailbox. No stamp. No return address. Inside, one line. Remember how it felt in the water. I didn't know what it meant. Or maybe I did. And I just didn't want to remember. That night, I dreamed again. I was drowning. Slowly. Quietly. The water was thick, black, like it was pulling not just my body, my mind. A hand grabbed my ankle. My own hand. And I didn't fight it. I knew I was supposed to stay down there. I woke up gasping, like I had just surfaced from actual water. A puddle under the bed. A wet footprint by my feet. Just one. I turned on the light. The door to the storage closet in the hallway was open. I had closed it. I was sure. Alex hadn't contacted me in 3 days. I almost felt relieved. Almost. Until he came back. It happened in a blink. I was walking down the street. Then suddenly, he was next to me. "Do you remember now?" he asked quietly. "Remember what?" "How you died." I froze. "You've died before, Michael." "So have I, multiple times. And each time, someone brought you back. But this time, no one's coming." He paused. Then added. "It's time you remembered who you are. You're insane." "No. I'm a part of you. And you're the result. But you still have a choice." He handed me something. Small. Metallic. A button. No label. No symbol. "What is this?" "When you remember, press it. Not before. If you do it too soon, the consequences will be worse than forgetting." I didn't take it. He slipped it into the pocket of my coat and disappeared into the crowd. That night, I found a box on my kitchen counter. I hadn't bought it. It was just there. Inside, a VHS tape. A faded handwritten label. 1991, Michael. Trial. I held it and felt the name Michael slipping like a borrowed jacket. It didn't feel like mine anymore. As if something else was beneath it. A name I'd heard once. In a dream. Ethan. I didn't know if I wanted to learn who I'd been. But I knew I couldn't stop now. I bought a VCR off a classified site. Some guy in his 50s delivered it himself. Didn't ask questions. Just said. "These things always come back when people start remembering." He smiled, but not with his eyes. I played the tape late at night. Headphones on. Lights off. Just the screen. Just me. Static. Then, an image. A boy sits at a table. About 6 years old. Reddish hair. Narrow shoulders. The face, almost mine. Almost. In the background, a mirror. But the camera angle keeps it just out of view. A man's voice, off-screen. Name? Michael. Real name? A pause. I don't know. The voice is soft. Friendly. But there's something underneath. Like a surgeon saying the operation was almost successful. "What do you remember before the first day?" The boy looks straight into the camera. Then says. "Water. Hands. Someone crying. Do you know who you are?" "No. But I'm not alone." The screen flickers. Distorts. And for a moment, another child appears. Nearly identical. Sitting at the same table. One is eating an apple. The other, staring into the mirror. Voice off screen. Experiment 17. Behavioral split. Synchronization attempt, unsuccessful. One subject resists restoration. Identity remains unstable. Then, for half a second, the screen glitches again. A caption appears. Subject E1, Ethan. Then instantly flickers. Michael. Trial tape. I froze. Rewound. Watched again. Same frames. Same boys. Same mirror. But this time, in the screen's reflection, someone is standing behind me. I turned around. No one. I rewound again. Frame by frame. Until one still image flashed, barely visible, not even a second long. Me. Now. Sitting in this room. Watching the tape. I shut everything off. Sat in the dark. Tape back in the box. Hands trembling. Everything I thought I knew about myself. It was edited. Spliced together. Fragments sewn into a skin I called me. But the question now wasn't, who am I? It was, how much of me isn't? 3 days after watching the tape, I received a letter. A real one, paper, envelope. No stamp. No return address. Inside, coordinates. GPS. And a single line. Take it before they erase it. The location pointed to an old industrial zone outside the city. I shouldn't have gone. But of course, I went. The place was dead. Overgrown rails. Rusted out buildings. Faded signs. I found the building, single-story, warehouse-like, damp and peeling inside. Rows and rows of boxes. Hundreds. Some open, filled with VHS tapes, photos, folders. Everything layered in dust and silence. Everything labeled. I walked the aisles until I saw it, 17M. My tape's number. Inside the box, another file. Thick. On the cover, my name. And a date. April 1st, 1989. I opened it. Photos. Medical reports. Observation logs. All those checkups from my childhood, they weren't checkups. They were phases. Comparative tests. Stimuli protocols. Replication cycles. One note stood out. Subject E1, Ethan primary structure, stable. Integration with composite units pending. Identity fracturing, expected. I blinked at the page. Ethan. So he was real. And I was made from him. Or with him. Or instead of him. If he was the original. Then who the hell was Michael? I kept flipping through the file. More notes. Subject shows high adaptability to alternative identity under sensory overload. Memory suppression at 72%. No residual self-awareness detected. Drawings. Dozens. Crayons, pencil, ink. All signed in handwriting that looked like mine, but wasn't. Boys. Mirrors. Staircases leading nowhere. One page repeated the same sentence, over and over again. I am not me. I am not me. I am not me. At the back, fingerprints. One was mine. The other, almost identical. I had barely closed the folder when I heard footsteps. A man in a gray suit entered like he'd been waiting for me to finish. You should have come sooner, he said calmly. They're already on their way. Who? The ones cleaning up the project. Erasing what's left. Including you. I stepped back. Who are you? He pulled out a badge. No name. Just a logo, 2 spirals, interwoven. I'm not your enemy. Not yet. Not until you press the button. I felt it in my coat pocket. What makes me so important? He looked at me like I was a child who didn't realize the house around him was just cardboard. You're not one. You're two. And you're the key. I didn't say it out loud, but the thought hit hard. If I'm two, maybe neither one is Michael. He vanished as quickly as he came. At the bottom of the box, buried beneath the folder, I found one last thing. A photo. Me. Alex. And a third boy. He stared straight into the camera. And I couldn't look away. Because those were my eyes. But I didn't know him. I didn't go home. After the archive, everything felt different. The street looked like it had been painted on film, creased at the edges. People moved like actors who'd forgotten their lines. I heard the cashier at the store say, "Subject 17 is unstable," while staring straight at me. Or maybe I imagined it. I rented a room at an old roadside motel. No cameras. No neighbors. It was quiet. Too quiet. Like the silence itself was watching me. I took out the button. That small, metallic disc. No logo, no label. Just weight in my palm. I kept spinning it between my fingers, as if I could feel meaning through motion. I didn't press it. Alex showed up again. 2 in the morning. Just standing at the door. "You're close," he said. "One more step." "Who's the third boy?" He didn't answer right away. Just sat across from me like he was about to confess something but couldn't find the words. "You do understand," he finally said, "that you weren't just part of the experiment. You're the result." "The result of what?" He looked at me with sorrow. "Like a brother who knows one of us won't make it. You're a synthesis. Memories, feelings, fragments of identity. They took the three of us, and made one. Removed the pain. Split the awareness. Planted it inside you. That's impossible. Then why do you remember my dreams?" I didn't have an answer. "And the third?" I asked again. "Is he alive?" Alex looked down. "I don't know. But if he is, he's close. He feels the same things you do. And he's dangerous." "Why?" Alex stepped closer. "Because he's the original." Then he left. And I was alone. With the button, and knowledge I couldn't unknow. I thought I was a person. Then a copy. Then an experiment. Now, what? I looked in the mirror. And I didn't see me. I saw faces flashing like projections. Alex. The third boy. The one from the tape. The man in the suit. And again, me. But not me. Then he came. The one I saw in the photo. He stood in the doorway. Didn't say a word. And I felt it, he wasn't a copy. Not a trace. Not a memory. He was me. The real one. Which means... who the hell am I? "I don't understand," I said. "Why all of this?" He didn't answer right away. He paced the room like a caged animal, studying me, as if comparing me to someone else. To himself. "Because you're alive," he finally said. "And I'm not. Because you got everything. And I got nothing. Because you were the outcome. And I was the discard." He stepped closer. "There were 3 of us. Triplets. But you were the promising one. That's what Dr. Lambert called you. Mom fought it. She didn't want to give up any of us. But they took all 3. And then, they started dividing." "Dividing what?" I asked. "Ourselves. Personality. Instincts. Emotions. One became rage. One became fear. One became memory. And me?" He looked at me, eyes identical to mine, but heavier. Sadder. "You were the one they rebuilt. When the project fell apart, they gave you back to her. You were the stable one. Wiped clean. No past. No pain. Just a blank slate. And we stayed behind the glass. He pulled something from his pocket, a small toy car. Old. Broken. I recognized it. I remembered seeing it in a box. But I couldn't remember how I got it. You thought that memory was yours, he said with a faint smile. No. It's mine. They uploaded our fragments into you. So someone would survive. The ground beneath me cracked. And you? I'm part of you, he said. But I wasn't supposed to survive. I escaped when it all collapsed. I've been searching for you ever since. Trying to reclaim what I am. To not disappear. He held up the button. If you press this, I'll be gone. For good. Not in you. Not anywhere. And if I don't? Then you go on like this. With false memories. Borrowed feelings. And me, always nearby. A shadow. He placed the button in my hand. You don't have to press it. But if you want to be real, truly, you'll have to remember. I pressed it. When I opened my eyes, I remembered everything. Our names. Our house. How Mom used to sing in the mornings. How I cried when one of us broke my toys. How we laughed. And how I was left alone when they split us apart. I had never been alone. Not really. I wasn't Michael. Not Alex. Not even the third, whose name I now also remembered. I was all of us. My name was Ethan. And now, I knew who I was.